with keep your friends close. I mean, I lived in West Hollywood like for a long time. And it's just such, I mean, like we just live so differently around here. And so, um, I always knew, when my kid was little and I was like really, really, immersed in that early, like 0 to 5 mom years, which are just, I don't even, every period of parenting is so different, but, I always knew, that I wanted to write like a twisted, messed up mom group story. Um, and it had been on my list for a while. Like I actually have I have a notebook that's like just list. I'm sure you do too, of like stuff. And it's been on there. It's been on there forever. It was really fun. And like, I got to write like my first lesbian POV in that one. So that was fun. I'd never done that before. Um, so yeah, and it was, and I knew it, I'd like I wanted it to be very like desperate housewifey, but with like a Lucinda Berry flavor, and I think that I probably succeeded in doing that. It definitely has that flavor, but like with my brain thrown in there. I always knew from like the very beginning that like Kirsten McCain was going to be the one that ended up like in the pool, like from the beginning. I went back and forth between who actually killed her. And that did change. So the killer that it ends up being at the end of the book was not the original killer. So, and I made that switch probably like in the middle of the book. I was like, you know what? I think this should be the killer. So, but you really do. I mean, it is, I mean, you really do. That book is like anyone could be the killer at any time, which is why it was fun. Suspense and thriller writing. And again, this is just like my opinion or whatever, but um, it has to be snappy and it has to be, if you are really trying to like keep the suspense there, it's not the place to like be, to be describing every flower that you see in the room, so I think that so I think it's just like much snappier writing. So, and I like to, and part of it is like, I like to read to be entertained. I like to read to be entertained. And so I very much write in the same way to entertain, like I want you to get, finished and feel like just got like hit by a train or got off a roller coaster, like that's my goal, and I don't, and so in order to do that, you really have to be conscientious of the pacing and and how you're making people feel and experience, and so that's not so much about like, I think the words that you use to do that and how you do that are different than, other like romance, is, just not written the same way. One of our own is first of all, one of the funnest projects that I did last year. It's a fully produced audiobook. And so what I mean by that is that, for example, in one of our own, the narrators, Felicia and Chloe, are their phone calls that they have. You're actually hearing those phone calls. So you're hearing the traffic noise in the background. You're hearing their heavy breathings when they're having phone calls later on, like you're hearing the phone ring. It's very much happening in real time, versus, other audiobooks have, it's like the narrator is just, the different narrators are reading the different like point of views. And so in this case, it's, Simon and Schuster is launching their, audiobooks that have all of this sound that's produced to them that makes it a really, really like unique reading experience. So, and especially with one of our own, it feels very, and it's the feedback that we've gotten so far is that it feels very much like you're listening to like a true crime podcast. Because it feel like all of the phone calls feel like clips from real life and in real time. When we were talking about the ones that are novella length, I thought about what everything would sound like. And I've never written anything from that perspective before. Like normally when I'm writing, I don't ever, unless it's dialogue. If I'm writing a lot of dialogue, I might read it out loud or think, but for this one, I was always very conscientious and aware and of like what will this sound like? How do I get them to have the experience that I want them to have through this new way of doing it. So one of our own is here in literally a week's time it comes out. So I'm super excited to see how people respond to it. And so far the response has been really, really, really positive. People have really liked it. July 23rd is when If You Tell a Lie, which is my next full-length novel, will be out in July. If You Tell a Lie it was so much fun to write. But so it's four friends. It's again in the past and present, bounces back and forth between the past and the present. It's four friends that during their childhood spend their childhood at summer camp together. Camp Pendleton. And it is a camp for kids that are gifted and talented in the 90s. And so these girls, that's where they grow up during the summer. And then their summer of their senior year, something terrible happens at camp. I know, shocking. Something terrible happens at camp that they are all a part of in some way. And they all swear themselves to secrecy. Never going to speak about this again. We will never see each other again. See you later. As you can imagine, because it's one of my books, the past does not stay buried in the past. So 20 years later, this horrible thing that they were a part of resurfaces. And so it's all about them coming back together as adults 20 years later to sort of face what they had done as kids and then who they've become as adults and can they trust each other. And what sort of madness will ensue from then.